So, welcome to our program today on what is a gratitude practice anyway? It's a great topic, isn't it? Because I've heard more and more about gratitude, Kevin, through the years. I think it's a topic whose kind of time has come. And I see gratitude as kind of a very focused way of talking about positive focus. And in my delicate age, I'm getting to the point where, like you said, Kevin, you're going to grow up to be like Ed, me too. When I become an adult, Ed, here's what I'm going to do. Because I have realized that conscious people have choices. Unconscious people don't have choices, right? They're habit driven. They're driven by what other people think about them. They're driven by the programming they got from mom and dad and school teachers and so forth. But to become conscious is a high, high state. I mean, I don't know how many people I know who are even mature, right? No less conscious. And I think that is sort of the middle of the mind map of all the subjects that we talk about here. And so I'm excited about this particular topic. But before we jump into it, let's just do a moment of meditation to center our minds, to open some new neural pathways. So let's sit up straight with our back away from the back of the chair, spine straight, shoulders back. Hands ideally are placed with the palms upturned at the junction of the thighs and the abdomen, which pushes the shoulders way back, enlarging our lung capacity. Let's close our eyelids, but let's lift our eyes to the point between the eyebrows without strain. And lastly, make a mental resolve not to move a muscle. If you feel an itch, don't scratch. It'll go away. Because stillness and silence are the twin pillars of beginning this interior journey toward receptivity, toward openness, toward learning and unlearning, and basically about the ever new. So let's close our eyelids, but focus the eyes between the eyebrows. Lift the eyes gently without strain. And let's begin by taking a slow, deep, full inhalation through the nostrils. Let's inhale. And exhale through the mouth. Inhale. Exhale. Once more, inhale. Exhale. Now breathe naturally. Double check that your eyes are focused between the eyebrows. Put your attention at the nostrils. And let's just watch. Let's watch the air coming and going in and out through the nostrils. When thoughts come, just gently push all thoughts away. Focus on the incoming and outflowing breath.
Frozen?
All right, let's open our eyes. Conscious people have choices. Only conscious people have choices. And sometimes we're conscious and sometimes we're not, right? And when we get into our habits, or if we get into our ego, or we get into anger, we get into what? Reactivity. Just recently, Corinne and I had a little social gathering, which was a combination birthday party for me and a book launch for Karina's new book. And we were interviewing this one fellow who hosts a radio program. And he's done this for decades. This guy, he's like a Robin Williams. He is just the most fertile mind I know personally. And I said to him, of all the life lessons you've learned, what would be number one? And just instantly, he said, laugh now, think later. Isn't that something? Doesn't that sound like yoga? Doesn't that sound like sanity? Doesn't that sound like balance? Doesn't that sound like depth? To laugh now and think later. But we are such thinking machines, right? Because we live in a very cerebral time period. And I just want to ask you whether you believe in free will or in destiny. I think somehow it's a combination. I really don't have a clue how it works. For a while, I thought I knew, but now I'm a little more open-minded about it all, because I think at any moment we do have choices. But to me, and I want to dialogue with you about this, Kevin, as we go along, the most important choice I have at any given time, this is just a personal observation, is how I feel right now. Because that feeling is so core. Because I've practiced thousands of affirmations and so forth. And I think any of us can get up in the morning and sit on the edge of our bed and say, every day in every way, everything's getting better and better. And it won't change, because it doesn't have that core of that positive expectancy and positive vibe, because karma simply means cause and effect, right? And I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, which is just an umbrella word. But I do believe that what I've learned in a nutshell from this law of attraction is that heretofore I have had split energy. And so I focus on what I want, then I focus on what I don't want. I focus on what's working, then what's not working. I focus on some goal, then I get into some some inner resistance of some shape or kind. So it's like my life is like a train with a locomotive on both ends. So I go forward a little bit, and then I go back, and then I go a little bit forward, and then I get pulled back. And it's like, it gets old, it gets very tiring, and it takes a lot of energy to live like that. But I think that the definition of the law of attraction, as I'm learning to practice it now, is just this: I'm going to get more of what I feel about what I think. So I can't tell the difference between a thought and a feeling. I don't know which comes first. It's a very fuzzy conversation in my mind. But yet I'm leaning toward the feeling coming first. And what I like, Kevin, about the subject of gratitude is it is about appreciation. And I think if we all started a more regular gratitude practice, that we would never come to the end. Because just yesterday, you see Cindy here is on the call. Rick and I were at her club outside of St. Louis. And she was hosting an event for a group of CMAA association people in the Midwest chapter. And we were talking about stuff and things and what's going on, and people talking about work-life balance and about training their people and about the new generation in the workforce, all these topical conversations of the day. And one person said, I have to remind myself, there's nothing serious going on here. I don't need to overreact, because it's like here we are. We're in the club industry. We're in a beautiful environment. We're in the United States of America. I mean, this is the cream we're talking about, you know? And so let's have a little bit of perspective. But I think that if we don't know where our thoughts are coming from, and we don't know and can't manage our emotions, then our behaviors are going to be semi-conscious at best, right? You know, part of those behaviors are going to be habitual. Part of them are going to be coming from fear and survival. You know, we're kind of down in the lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy, right? And so how do we get up there? Because I think that there's two ways to look at gratitude. You know, are we going to give thanks? And this is an interesting question for you, Kevin. And I'm not saying that there's a one answer or a right answer, but do we give credit to God or the gods or whatever we believe the powers that be? Or do we give credit to ourselves as co-creators? It's who's on first, you know, this whole conversation about the creative process, about consciousness and thought. And I really do believe that gratitude is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because positive energy attracts positive energy. When I'm in a negative mood, what happens, right? And so there is a certain thing called momentum. So, Kevin, how did you get on this gratitude train? You know, you mentioned addiction as a starting point, which is a great place to start.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to take it back a little further to sort of what, if you don't mind, sort of led to the addiction, if you will, because there are a whole series of events in the second half of my childhood that I just never really came to grips with as an adult. And instead, I just pursued sort of fulfilling a lot of the social narratives around the definitions of success around business and other things, chasing it, right? And in the process, came very, very close to my own self-destruction. So very quickly, and first of all, thank you, everyone. My name is Kevin Carpenter, and Kevin Carpenter is the equivalent of Clark Kent underneath the Superman outfit, and the gratitude is my better half and my superhero and the manifestation of everything I wish to be and everything I want to bring to the world. So where did the gratitude come from? I can tell you the gratitude was conceived on July 30th, 1984. That was the day that my coach, Rusty Fuller, showed up after about a 3-year run of a whole bunch of stuff happening within my family, where the first half of the childhood in a college town in Michigan, Ann Arbor, was just amazingly fun. And all I remember was just rolling around on a Schwinn and having the time of my life. And basically when puberty hit, my brother and I, who's an Irish twin, a year older than me, nobody really updated us on what was going on other than things like, hey, we're moving, and hey, your dad and I aren't together. And then all of a sudden in the middle of the night on July 28th, my oldest sister bursts into the house at 3:30 in the morning, and all I hear her yelling is, "It's over, it's over." And my father had taken his own life. So it was pretty heavy for a 15-year-old, right? I didn't really know what was going on. I was pretty catatonic for a few days. And then 2 days later, July 30th, 1984, Rusty Fuller, my coach, showed up, because all I did for a few years leading up to that was play sports, right? I wanted to get out of the house and stay out of the house and do things that I enjoyed with people that I loved. And that was the only thing I could find, you know? So I played literally any sport they had. I even played volleyball in 9th grade, and I never even picked up a volleyball. I was like, what's the next sport? Rusty showed up, and I was totally out of it. I wasn't even responding, apparently, when he was on the porch there. And I'm still friends with Rusty, very close. He just retired up in Ann Arbor. And all of a sudden, apparently, he's like, hey, get in the van, like that. I'm like, whoa, like with his coach talk. And he says, there's nothing going on here. You know, they're going to take care of all those details. That's for the adults, man. Let's go to the pizzeria. He goes, that girl that you have a crush on, I just saw her walk in there. Tony is there. John is there. And the whole Mikos family wants to show you their new pizzeria, man. They're waiting for you. Let's go. I'm like, hell yeah, let's go, man. I'm starving all of a sudden. I looked at him and I'm like, God, I love this guy so much, man. I'm so fortunate. And he's right. I do have a crush on that girl. And Tony's there and John is there. I haven't seen those guys in weeks. holy crap, I feel so great. And I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is going on right now? I mean, 5 minutes ago, I was literally at the lowest moment of my life. And here I am. I felt like I was in a giant ball of sunshine floating away. I was overwhelmed with love, and it was
Wow.
gratitude. And nothing changed in my life, right? I'm sitting there, I'm going, wait a minute. I feel completely different. Like my whole body in reality feels different, yet nothing has changed on the scoreboard of what my dad's still dead. We're still broke. And I feel fucking great. Excuse my language. That was my introduction. That was the birth of the gratitude. Now, things didn't get easier necessarily for me. I went away a few years later to play college because all those years playing sports paid off, apparently. I could hit baseballs rolling out of bed. I tore my rotator cuff within a few months, and that was the end of the meal ticket. We had no money, right? And I decided I was just going to pack up $2,000. I had visited California when I was 16. I'm just going to pack up $2,000. I'm going to California, and I'm just going to create my own life, man. There's nothing here for me. I could barely lift my arm up. I weighed 50 pounds more than I weigh today. I was like 225 pounds. I packed up 2,500 bucks. My mom gave me a picture of my aunt who I'd never met, Gail. She picked me up at San Francisco Airport in 1988 at the airport. Within a few days, I had already arranged a motorcycle I was going to buy. I couldn't afford a car because I didn't have enough money. I had $2,000. I bought a $600 motorcycle. I put a down payment in my apartment room I was sharing, had about 500 bucks left over, started a job. My first job was at a ice cream place. And the kids are like, dude, you're from Michigan. Have you been to the beach on your motorcycle, man? Have you gone to Highway 1? I'm like, no, I just got the motorcycle. Dude, you got to go to the ocean on that bike, dude. I'm like, okay, well, yeah. I came over that mountain, man. And again, a week earlier, I'm in Michigan, right? I come over that mountain. I get to the beach. I flip my mask up. I never seen mountains and redwoods and ocean. And if you've never been to Northern California and that stretch of coast in between the Monterey Bay and San Francisco, it's stunning, right? And I got hit with salt spray on my face. I didn't even know I literally thought somebody spit out of their car or something. I'm from Michigan. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, oh, it's salt. Huh. So I pull over onto the beach and I take my helmet off. And all I remember is hearing the helmet hit the sand. And I had the same feeling as when Rusty was standing on the porch. I was like, oh my God. Thank God my dad took his own life. Thank God I tore my rotator cuff. Holy crap, I could be in Michigan right now. And that's what I needed. So gratitude is how I built my life. I realized the shifting of what I thought about was fundamentally way more important than any of the circumstances going on in my life, right? Now, what happened when I got out of college, I studied a lot of philosophy, a lot of Eastern philosophy, a lot of all sorts of stuff because I was always a seeker after that. My buddy started the first company to put GPS computers in golf cars. I introduced that in California, sold the first deal I ever talked to, and we took that company from $1 million in sales to $20 million in 3 years. That company was Parview back in the late 90s, early 2000s. In the process of that, and as we started to roll up the industry in the late 2000s and things, I started drinking more and more heavily. And then when I really got everything I ever wanted, when I got my wife and my kids and we got private equity and backing and I was making a lot of money, that's when I really became an alcoholic. I was going to follow in the footsteps of my father and end up killing myself slowly because I felt responsible for what happened back then. Why didn't I save the day? Or if you really were special, they wouldn't have left like that, you know, Kev? All these other lies that you tell yourself that if you don't unwind, they'll literally kill you. So I went to my wife 4.5 years ago and I had started, Club Car acquired our technology company. I took a sort of a golden handcuff deal where I didn't have to travel. I stayed home for the first time in 20 years. I started to do yoga. I started to meditate a little bit. And I started to hear the voice that I had to quit alcohol, that I was killing myself. I was going to die. I was going to lose my family. I was going to lose my wife. I was going to lose my kids. I finally had the courage to go to my wife. I needed to hear it from somebody else. I had researched neuroscience, gratitude, neuroplasticity, really trying to understand, can I rewire my brain? Can I replace addiction with my gratitude practice and save myself from myself? I asked my wife, I said, what is it? You really need to take the gloves off. And she said, listen, the only thing out of balance is alcohol. And it's the only time I've ever seen you be mean. I could barely say that, you know? I said, well, guess what? I'm never going to be mean again. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm never going to drink again. I said, I just needed to hear that. I'm doing it. I'm starting today. I'm never drinking again. She goes, oh, are we going to do rehab or what are you going to do? Should I take the bottles out of the house? I was like, you could reconstruct this house with Tito's bottles and I'm never drinking again. You're too important. My life is too important. I'm not doing it. I took 2 weeks off. I meditated basically every day, did yoga, meditated 4 or 5 hours a day. And I created a series of mantras and vocal expressions and things I would say out loud as the addiction thoughts would come in. I would talk about the why, what I'm grateful for, and why I'm going to do this. And within 21 days, I realized I did it. Like I literally realized I was never going to drink again. But if I went around telling this story as Kevin Carpenter, it would be like Clark Kent not wearing the Superman costume when he did great deeds. That's why I created the gratitude. The gratitude is out there in the golf industry as the Sherpa of happiness, as the symbol of a man that's willing to be vulnerable and to tell his story, to show other man that, you know, it's not about getting knocked down, it's about getting back up. So really, that is really what made me create a lifelong commitment to the gratitude practice. Is I really understood the power of neuroscience and neuroplasticity and what gratitude can do, even in small doses. I'm an extreme example of that. And then Craig, to your question earlier, in the process of overcoming alcohol addiction, you know, I really, really had to deal with all of these deep demons. And in the process of that, when I came out of this, I almost didn't recognize the name Kevin Carpenter, you know, or even feel a need for it, you know. And for the first time, I understood why artists might change their name to a symbol like Prince did or something like that. It's like, it doesn't really mean that much to me anymore. And I'm okay. I mean, I don't have any problem with the name. It's just whatever, you know. I'm about something much bigger than me now, right? So that's the background. And I just felt like it was important to give you a level set of how I got here, because my commitment is a little bit extreme, but the process that I had to go through to get here matches that extremity, if you will. So really what I want to do in talking with you is just demystify gratitude and the practice of it. Because what you do when you start to introduce consciously a desire to become more grateful in your life and to implement some basic thought practices, and there's other physical practices that we'll talk about here in a little bit. You know, what happens there is you really start to shift your predisposition towards a bias for positivity. And I'm going to repeat that because it's really, really important. So when you practice gratitude, the neuroscientific effect that happens is you create more and more pathways in your mind to find thoughts of appreciation, which then creates a greater likelihood that all of your initial reactions become more positive because you're just numerically stacking the deck. Okay, that's a gross oversimplification, but it works, right? So what energies create what thoughts, right? And that's important to understand, right? Because the practice of gratitude is a verb, right? And I think people forget that. And just like love, right? Love, the word has become so overused and commercialized that people forget that love is an act, right? It's a verb. It's something you do, and it's something you show, and it's an action, right? It's an energetic action. It's a verb. Gratitude is the same way. And from an instruction process, if gratitude came in a bottle, you would definitely say wash, rinse, repeat, but that's skipping ahead. If it had instructions, it would say, okay, the first step is you have to return to the moment of now. You have to become into the present moment of now, or what I call the generous present moment, because it's always waiting for you. It's very generous in that regard. It's always there and waiting. How do you do that? Breath, just like we did in the meditation. And I love the meditation, Craig. That was really cool, man. And it's funny, dude, because when you started off the meditation, I got excited because I was like, oh man, I love it when other people lead meditation. Craig's, I love his voice. Okay, go ahead, Craig. So anyway, thanks. That was really cool.
Before you go on, Kevin, I want to
Yeah,
ask a question because,
sure.
you know, Stacy and I developed a tool And we were talking about this yesterday to your group, Cindy. And the tool is a very simple tool. It's about awareness. And so we had a class this morning on, it's a 4-week program on stress reduction. And in the first class, we're defining what is stress, what's the genesis of it and everything. But this tool it's kind of popular and it's very simple and straightforward. It's like write down the 3 people that cause you the most stress. And then write down the 3 tasks that you do every day that suck your energy and cause stress the most. But in a way, that's yesterday's news, right? And so an even healthier, more proactive tool would be, who are the 3 people that make me feel the calmest? What are the 3 tasks I do? Is it meditation? Is it my long distance run? Is it playing with the dog or the cat? These things that lead me into this. Because do you have a differentiator, Kevin, between the word appreciation and gratitude?
No, I really don't, now that you mention that at all.
Because that's in the present moment, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a key thing, is keeping what's in front of me, what's on the, it's like my mind is like a needle, right? I can only focus on one thing at one time, right?
Absolutely.
And if I'm conscious, I have a choice what I'm going to put on that needle, right? It's like balancing a pie plate on a, Chinese spinning game. And it's like, one of my disciplines I learned from the law of attraction, and I'm doing this now in double digits every day, Kevin. And it is asking myself this question: what is the next positive thought within my vibrational range that I can go for right now? I can't go from depression to bliss. That's too big, right? But I can go from depression to something else, or from where I am, if I can identify that feeling and then take that next step, because I believe that my feelings have been the missing component in my life of becoming conscious, having choices, and aligning my behaviors with that higher self, or whatever you want to call that, intentionality. But it sounds like gratitude is just a fantastic program to do just that.
Amen. And appreciation is almost the cultural fabric that gets knitted through the practices of gratitude when you're in an organization or a group, especially, right? So one of the things that I look forward to doing, once the nonprofit is up and rocking and rolling, and I've got, staff and grant writers, and it's not a one-man band, to going out to golf facilities like Ed's and other folks that understand what we're talking about, and just simply teaching the golf industry through a demonstration and not through scolding, of the fact that you don't have to look very far to create a culture that binds everyone together on the property under one umbrella of culture. And in hospitality, restaurants, golf, farming, and other industries that rely heavily on a bifurcated workforce, with Hispanic labor providing a lot of the sort of blue collar elements, and then white collar, it's just the way that things have been on the agronomy side in golf, and the way they are today relative to the global economy and where we're at. It just is what it is. So what happens is that a lot of golf facilities and restaurants and other places is they'll have 2 Christmas parties, right? They'll have 2 of this, 2 of that, because when it really gets down to it, it's like, well, we want to make sure everybody really enjoys it, and we just don't know how to kind of do it together. You do if you do through gratitude. So what I look forward to doing is basically just coming in and explaining gratitude in a very, very short way, in 30 minutes, to everyone in the clubhouse staff, what it means and how you can do it internally, and then some activities you could do in the business, and some, gratitude chalkboard, and some different things that involve the staff and other things like that. And then change my shoes, take off my Italian loafers, and go over to the maintenance shed and just do the same presentation in Spanish. Don't change anything. Just change it. Just change the language, because I speak fluent Spanish. And everybody over there is going to respond with the same theta brainwave, the same higher emotion reaction, the same snapping back into the generous present moment of now, as the white folks did in the clubhouse. But I don't want to come in there and say, see, I just want to do it with love and lead with love, and just show It's right here. It's right here. And we don't have to invent anything new. It's just appreciation and gratitude. So I look forward to that. And I think it could be a big help with golf. I think it'll drive a lot of retention, and I think it'll drive a lot of happier employees when we could all get together and have one Christmas party.
Well,
So
we got introduced to you through Ed, and Ed, I want to ask you a moment here because Ed, I don't see Ed as a philosopher. I don't see Ed as an intellectual. He's plenty smart.
yeah,
And he's plenty experienced, and he runs a crack team. But Ed, I think his spearhead is that he knows how to bring people together around having fun and what I would call humanity. We spent a bunch of days with his gang down in Florida, and he rented a couple of big houses next door to each other, and it was very informal. It was just hanging out, although we were doing a lot of training, but we're going out to eat, we're ordering food, there's a pool table. I mean, it was like a bunch of overgrown kids there,
yeah.
you know? Ed, how did you learn to that positive way to bring people together? Did you learn the hard way, like Kevin's story, or what's the story?
So Kevin and I share an interesting background because I think, Craig, you might know as well. I'm a non-drinker for 12 years. So, and when I was actively drinking, I guess would be a term, I was a madman. I mean, I was very successful. You know, I ran a club in Long Island for 12 years, but just as I would almost use the word dictator. I told people what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and I didn't really care what they thought. Like it was just but I made it because I knew what it would take. But once I came to Bretton Woods, in DC, my life was coming together a little bit. It's a much different environment. It needed a lot of work because it was very fractured. Everyone was in their own silo, as you hear, but on a big scale here. And I think, I don't know if you've met Kevin McDonald. Actually, I met Kevin Carpenter through Kevin McDonald, who's the coach of CMAA. He runs a program you've probably heard of called Extraordinary Leader Program. Mm-hmm. So as I was trying to, re-envision how maybe I could run things, I went through a pretty crazy, wild divorce. I'm not going to bore people here, but it was 3.5 years of wildness. But during that time when I started practicing gratitude, I would journal every day. I would find 15 things I was grateful for, just change my mindset. And then once that got behind me, I was almost going to just start coaching because I'm a certified coach through COVID. And both my staff, I'm in a very precarious spot right now. My staff won't let me retire per se. The board doesn't want me to retire. And I literally just drove to, we just hosted the Europeans. I had 25 Europeans. I was preaching leadership, and I threw gratitude in the 4 agreements into my talk the other day. But I've been on campus this year. It's a $12 million business. So it's not the biggest club in America by any means. But I just broke. Yesterday was my 91st day on campus in 2023, which is like, what? Wow. How is it possible? So I think it's by getting people aligned. It's by getting governance. I've been able to impact governance. And, as long as we're making money and people are happy and we have a 200 and something person wait list to get into the facility, they leave me alone. So I think it's
this is an unbelievable story, Ed, because Ken, you should listen to this guy, because Ed, he only works like 4 months out of the year. He's got this crack, and you know who owns his club? The International Monetary Fund, for God's sake. This is off the charts, and yet he's spearfishing and he's skiing and he's up in Whistler, and because he's got the right people, he's given them the right training, and the higher you get in the leadership rank, the less work you should be doing. Your people are doing. Specialization is the first sign of civilization, right? Division of labor, right?
Wow.
And empowerment. And Ed is an empowerer.
I think just setting big parameters. There's a lot of goals we're trying to make, but it's big picture stuff. We all have a vision we've bought into, And how each department gets there, I don't worry about. As long as my members, my thing with my staff is, if you keep the members away from me, I will keep committees and boards away from you.
Ah, that's great.
We have
But also, yeah, but Ed, I mean, honestly, I mean, the way that you communicate and interact with your staff, there's no hierarchy in the way that you interact, and nobody stiffens up when you walk over like people typically do in a boss environment at a club. I mean, it's just different because you're authentic and you're not talking to people as if you're superior. People feel that energetically, and that's why they respond to you, to be honest with you.
That's right. You were there. You were at Brettonwood. You played around the golf. We had dinner. We broke bread on Sunday night.
Yeah. But I watch Ed, and I see how you are. And, when you're kind to everybody and when you deliver the same flavor of kindness to the busboy and and all the way up to the members and assistant general manager, everybody sees that and everybody's watching. That's what they respond to, not your words. So that's why you're great.
It's your action. You're right. So it's not rocket science what we do. We as individuals certainly can complicate it, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, we can complicate anything in our lives by getting in the way. That's one of the cool things of gratitude, though, in a fundamental sense, right? In terms of a way to just eliminate life being like this. Life can be like that. I mean, I'm at the point now, my heart rate doesn't change, and I'm not going to tell you all the stuff in my life that I'm going through that typically show up as stressors on those typical, rate your stresses in your life. That's all just a victim mentality BS measurement anyway, right? I mean, at the end of the day, gratitude teaches you that everything you experience in your life has one of two buckets it has to fall into, right? It's either going to be a lesson that you're going to learn from, or it's going to be obviously a blessing that you're going to give thanks for. Where people get jammed up and where the need for perhaps a higher power, Craig, to your introduction comes into, is the patience that's required for the reveal. Okay. Simple example. I'm driving, I'm a single guy. I'm in my 30s and I'm driving to a meeting and somebody slams on the brakes in front of me and I just get a little fender bender. No big deal. Nobody's hurt. But if you're immediately going to say a car accident, what do you say? That's a bad thing. You just had a bad thing happen, right? That's just what we're taught. That's bad. Well, I get out of the car, I inspect the damage. I look down. It doesn't look too bad. The other car isn't too bad. And out of the car comes this Puerto Rican Dominican goddess that I look at and I go, oh my God, I think I'm in love. We exchange phone numbers because you have to when you get in a car accident, right? And insurance. And I muster up the courage and I said, hey, I know that, and I didn't mean to hit you and that's not why, but would you meet me for coffee? She becomes the mother of my children. Was that accident bad? What if I just had patience and decided not to label it and just experienced it as life and go, okay, well, I'm either going to learn from this as a lesson or it might be a blessing.
Well, right? if what you suggest is true, and I believe it, Kevin, the word accident will disappear from our vocabulary.
Yeah, amen. Absolutely. So what happens is you remove yourself as the primary role in the narrative, right? You're just a part of the landscape like everything else, right? And I'm going to choose my thoughts, which will then dictate the energy that will follow, which creates what we call moods. It creates the energetic feeling in your body that we then describe in the form of emotions and moods, right? So those are choices to your point. And again, one of the assumptions, Craig, that you have and that I have, quite honestly, is that we can choose our own thoughts, right? It takes consciousness to be able to do that, right? So that is definitely one of my assumptions, that choosing to participate in thoughts and where I decide.
I don't know, Kevin, that I can choose my first thought, but I sure as heck can choose my second thought.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And it's interesting when you talk about, nurture, nature, things like that. So I'm studying guided meditation and guided hypnotherapy right now. It's just part of my overall efforts to learn more and more about neuroscience and how to help other people. And I've learned a lot of really, really interesting things around that, right? Obviously. But, the concepts of energetic inheritance as well as genetic inheritances are very real, right? And if we start to really realize that we're like a computer that showed up right out of the box when we're born, and we've got some great firmware and hardware, but then all of a sudden everybody comes along, whether it's society, friends, family, strangers, people, and they start loading software and programs and viruses onto our computer. They also load great things, right? There's the office suite, and there's other, they load good values and love and this and that, but you also have moments and experiences and traumas and other things, and the way you process those go into your hard drive, right? So until you scan your disk and really understand what's in there, you got to decide what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep, and what serves you and what doesn't serve you, so you can start to understand, why do I have the thoughts that I have? And gratitude helps you unwind that, because again, all of this happens by coming back into the moment of now, as we talked about earlier. That's one of the great tools that gratitude provides, is that vehicle to get you back into the moment. Breath, and then thoughts of appreciation. That's the way to avoid what I like to call the future thoughts that create anxiety, and the past thoughts that create regret. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions on any of the stuff that we're talking about so far, Craig? Because I know we're getting a little bit into some granularity on consciousness and stuff. But
Yeah,
I think
Ken, let me ask you, because Ken, he's a corporate rat. He works for Hitachi, and he's a high level director and everything. But yet Ken has been a meditator for years and years. I know Ken's family. We had dinner in Chicago last week, and Ken's a very grounded guy. What place has gratitude played in your discipline, Ken?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, Kevin, thank you for this topic and sharing your journey. Appreciate everything you've gone through to share with all of us and anybody that you share with. So thank you for that. Gratitude, as you said, right? Actually, not only am I working for a corporate company, but we happen to be in the midst of an audit by our parent company. So, but in the midst of all of that and all those meetings and everything, the opportunity to join on a call with everyone today is definitely there's some gratitude that I have for that. But actually, if you kind of roll that back even further, and Kevin, you were talking about us as beings and being able to be here, and actually part of what I'm looking at is the gratitude just to actually be, and for whatever opportunity I had. You described an example of meeting your wife, and I was maybe talking with Craig recently, and certainly talked to other people. All of the crazy circumstances that you just described that have happened for generations upon generations upon generations for each of us to even be a part of this call, it's almost astronomical to put your head around. Mm-hmm. And so since you really can't put your head around that, you have to kind of just take a step back and be like, we almost get addicted to not being in the present moment. And I don't want to use the term addiction lightly in light of everything that each of you described, but the pain and suffering that we all go through is something globally that would be almost considered an addiction. And why is that? So you've described some things, Craig described some things. We talked about meditating and a different energy that's available to all of us. So what we have to all kind of take a look in the mirror, so to speak, and what is the point? Why aren't we able to do that regularly? And you said, Kevin, that our bias leads toward this positivity, this gratitude. That should be our default. I think agree. We come here as the default. The addiction gets poured on there, and then we all have to figure out how to unravel that.
Yep, you got it.
And that's what, or at least the journey that from my perspective. So I think gratitude isn't, I have a couple of young daughters, and one's in high school, and you imagine the drama that goes on with that. And I have no reference, right? Because I'm whatever. I didn't have those similar experiences in high school. I had my own, but it's like, you see that, and that even trying to instill gratitude and so forth on a regular basis, there's the outside forces that are continually at play for all of us.
Yep.
And so, in this case for my daughter, there's things that, try to do. But so maybe a long-winded answer, Craig, but the bottom line is that all of these components, whether it be gratitude, whether it be mindfulness, the overall well-being of and the being, that's kind of the thing that kind of strip it back. How can I get there and then present that, as you said, in a corporate world? And that's really what the objective is from my perspective.
I love that. And Ken, it's really interesting and appreciate the input. The piece about sort of how do you combat it? How do you have to look at it like, okay, well, all of the information and all of the inputs that I really don't want relative to where I want to go in terms of growing myself as a person are coming, in the form of, messages about consumerism, like you're not good enough unless you buy this or that. You're bombarded by that if you consume any sort of media of any kind, right? Just the nature of that consumer sort of reality. So what I would suggest, because I just want to mention this, I'm going ahead a little bit to some of the exercise you can do, but I want to mention this just in case you have to get off the call pretty soon, is a really cool thing that you can do with your teenage daughters, because I started something for my 15-year-old about 4 years ago that is now going to be something is the core component of our nonprofit, Grateful for Golf. So what we want to do is, because again, the reason I'm choosing gratitude as the movement is because it's non-confrontational. It can't be construed as political or any part of the narrative of the divisive overall social power structure narratives that are going on globally. And it's extremely accessible and easy to understand. And lastly, I don't care if your name is Genghis Khan or Shaka Khan. If you don't have gratitude, you can't be happy. It doesn't matter what pile of wealth you're sitting on. If you don't have enough, you're not happy. So for me, I know that humanity can't elevate our collective consciousness, which is my ultimate aspiration, which sounds grandiose, unless all of us work on elevating ourselves one day at a time. And gratitude is the most accessible practice to get folks into a personal practice of mindfulness. So with my daughters, because both of them do it now, about 4 years ago, my 15-year-old has incredible emotional intelligence and always has, and they're very, very, very smart as well academically, but really, really off the charts in emotional intelligence since they were born. It's really amazing. And I noticed an energetic shift within a week of them getting their cell phone. I mean, within a few days, but within 5 days, I was like, I have to do something. And basically I was working on something. What can I do every single day? What can I do? What can I do? And I came up with a program that my kids have to do every single day during the school year. They have to do this before the first bell, or they have to do it before noon in the summertime because we let them sleep in, right? So what they do is every single day they send me what's called their gift. Gift is just an acronym: gratitude, intention, and first thing. So one new thing they're grateful for, one intention for the day, and 2 things they're going to do before they go to bed, no matter what. And they hold themselves accountable to that. I've added in one more thing in the last few years, and that's one new thing that they love about themselves, really specifically more for teenage females in social media and stuff. So I want them to practice an expression of new self-love every day, just as a further neuroscientific, kind of assist on that side. The impact was immediately apparent, immediately. So these kids have been doing this for 4 years. The youngest one is 13. They've been doing it for 3 years. They coach other kids on mindset and gratitude without them even realizing. I listen to the way they talk about it. Like a kid will be talking about something they experienced, and one of my kids will be like, yeah, but that's going to teach you so much. And when you're older, you're going to draw back on that. I'm like, oh my God, that's just the greatest thing I've ever heard. So there are little things that you can do And what I wanted to offer this group and anyone in CMAA is starting tomorrow is let's do a 30-day program together, because 21 days is habit forming. 30 days, we just pad it just to do it. I do it every day anyway with different people all over the world. I would love to have a group, and maybe Stacy could just create a phone list or something, and we'll figure out how to do that. But I'll start with my gift, and anyone that would like to participate, I would really love for you to experience what happens, and you will start to see what happens a few weeks into it, and you will feel it. And I'll share a story with you. A gentleman that I've rented a house from here in back in Sarasota, and some couple friends that I've become close with. The guy was interested in gratitude and had read up on some stuff, and we connected on LinkedIn. And he asked me about it, and he said, is there anything I could do? I'd like to kind of get more gratitude in my life. And I said, well, look, how about in June, summer, I'm going to do, let's do 30 days of gratitude together. You do the gift with me every single day. And there were a few days where it'd be like 5:30. I'd be like, Mike, like he was one of my kids. Oh, sorry, Kev. Anyway, a few weeks into it, he was saying, listen, man, I'm really enjoying this. And what's happening is I'm praying more. I found out I'm praying more. It's really interesting. Oh, wow, that's really cool, Mike. I knew he was going to get closer to his God, because he explained to me that he was Catholic and it was really important to him. I knew this was going to happen, and I'm watching it happen. I'm watching his heart open up. And he tells me at the end of a month that he realized every single morning after a few weeks, he always started off with God and his family every single day. And he goes, I'm not giving enough airtime to these people, man. This is all changing. I'm changing this, man. I'm changing this. And he has told me over the last few months that his whole reality in terms of his priorities and putting business third now behind God and his family, it all came just from focus, just from a daily focus. And neuroscientifically, he had a breakthrough. Now, not everybody.
Kevin,
yeah, good.
That's the magic word, focus. Because if you made a mind map of this conversation we're having, it all comes down to that one thought on the needle of my mind, right? At any given moment.
You're
and
right.
I want to introduce you, Kevin, to Donna, who's on the call. And she was a guest speaker last week on this program about stages of life. And Donna is, we're all just kids on this call, right? I'm 77. I'm with you. We're just a bunch of punks that are finally figuring it out. But Donna is 83. And Donna grew up in New York, and a very super old school family, very puritanical and so forth. And yet she ended up moving to California, working directly with Mr. Hewlett and Mr. Packard at HP for many years. So Donna, you've been through so many different chapters of your life. And of all the people I know, it would be very easy, I think, for you to consider yourself a victim. Oh, my mother didn't understand me. Oh, my father was hardcore. Oh, the schooling I got was just brutal, which it was. I don't think there's any question about it. But yet you seem to have ended up positive, and I'm sure you're grasping everything that Kevin is saying. How did you make that pivot, Donna?
First of all, I had an enormous amount of determination from the time I was born. And I was never a mean child, but I absolutely refused to let people overwhelm me with their own negativity. And so I think now I got to the point where someone said something about you're going to get something out of this that you're going to find as a good resource years later. And that has happened to me over and over and over. And I think probably the most exciting thing that I just heard today is the gift, the gratitude, and two things you're going to do at the end of the day. And to me, that just absolutely, it blew me up, because I have to fight self-criticism. You know, I say to myself, well, what can I do to make myself better? And instead I should say, what have I done that's wonderful?
There you go.
And from this very minute, I'm doing that.
I love that. Well, good. Well, so you're, at least I know one person will start the gift program with me tomorrow. So Donna and I are starting. Who else is coming with us? We're starting tomorrow, Donna. I'm getting your phone number, buddy. Let's
Well,
go.
well, Stacy can circulate all of our phone numbers, and I think
Yes.
that we do need support, because it's not education, it's not good intentions, right? We all have that. We know where that leads. But we need ongoing support, right? It's a group effort, and
Yeah,
so
and Craig, listen, you know, I mean, honestly, try me, you guys. Anybody on this phone call, try me. I'm telling you, if you're weak, I'm strong. Jump on my back. I mean, I don't need anybody's anything. I don't want anything from anybody, and I'm not selling you a damn thing. I'm here to help you. I just want to make you happier so we could all be happy together. Life is about pursuing your own personal greatness and having as much damn fun as you can. There's nothing else to it. Anybody else tells you there's more to it is full of shit and trying to sell you something. That's my opinion.
Island, what do you think about what Kevin is saying? Do you think that's an oversimplification, or do you buy into that?
No, I actually think, hi, Kevin Island, Key Largo, Florida. No, I think that's great. And I don't think I think we try to add things, add color when a lot of things just are really black and white when it comes to the mechanisms of, you know, it's a series of choices. Like there's no perfect, right? It's just a series of decisions with an outcome. And wholeheartedly agree that we can probably find a lesson and a blessing each and every time if we really just calm down and let it all flow. So I am in on the gift.
Yes.
So we'll do that. And I was actually we're working on our culture of be the difference and doing a kickoff. So this is like perfect timing.
Where are you located? Where are you at?
I'm sorry?
Where are you at?
Ocean Reef Club in Key Largo, Florida.
Oh my God, I'm coming down, man. I love that spot. I want to come
Come on
visit.
down.
Yeah, no. So
Well,
yeah,
I've
known lots of the people down. Now was Liebert? Yeah, John was there for a while. John went from Congressional down to there and then out to Desert Mountain, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so John's an old friend, and I've known the other people down there, and I know the guys who do the golf cars down there. Those are all my buddies down there that have their office down there, the dudes out of Tampa and all those guys. So that's cool. I would love to come down and visit and see it.
Well, we will connect all of you via email and contact information.
Cool.
But
cool.
I want to respect our time. We're at the end of our hour. And thank you so much, Kevin, for your
my pleasure.
And for your experience and just your willingness to share, because we're all in the same boat here. There's zero judgment going on around here. And I think we're all committed to having as much fun in life as Ed does. How's that?
Hey, Craig, really quick, just one thing to please, if I could please just leave with. We're talking about things that and ways that you could sort of do a level set of being grateful. And I just want to tell you what I do when I open my eyes in terms of what I run through of the things that I'm grateful for. And what the first thing that I do is that I give thanks that my conscious awareness understands where I'm located within a meat suit. And you may think I'm joking. I'm not, because if any of you have had any friends or family that have gone through the last stages or dementia or things like that, there comes times where folks, their soul and their mind get a little disconnected as they're making transition. They sometimes get confused as to where are they human? Where are they? They don't know. So I know that sounds weird. It's not. So be thankful that you're actually aware that you're in a human body as your energetic spirit. And that the fact is that when you do achieve motivation, you can take nourishment, you can locomote and move under your own volition. And then I think of, as Ken mentioned, I think of my parents and I think of their parents, and I picture a pyramid of humanity going back. And if any one of those people, whether they're in Ireland or Scotland or Africa or whatever, took a left instead of a right, I'm not here and someone else is talking to you right now. These are the types of things I do to go really, really deep and fundamental before I even start my day. And if you could start your day with gratitude before you look at your phone, and end your day with gratitude after you look at your phone, the neuroscientific impact and the rewiring will happen much, much faster, and you'll be happier. And that's what
I think all of us completely get what you're talking about, Kevin. And one of the chapters in Karina's book is about influencing the past by changing the present, you know, because there is no past, there is no future. It's all, you know, you talk about BS. That's what it is. It's
Amen.
all right here, right now.
Amen.
Everything else is fantasy land.
Totally, dude.
So great to see
Spoken
you.
like the true monk. Spoken
Invite
like the
you
monk
back.
that you are.
Kevin,
Amen.
thanks for the
Hallelujah.
meal. I'm on a boat in Belize next week, so I might drop off connectivity, but I am down for this, and I'm grateful to be here today. Honestly,
My man.
Now,
You're the
brother.
greatest, Dad. I love you guys. Thank
Go
you guys
for it,
so
Ed.
much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Really
See
appreciate
you
you
it.
guys. Bye for now.
Thank you for coordinating, Stacy. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.